Director, is President Trump implicated in any wrongdoing related to Jeffrey Epstein?
Based on the entirety of the evidence that we have, absolutely not.
The president is not implicated.
Correct.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about China's malign influence here in America. And, we've seen spy balloons traverse the United States. We've seen police stations in communities around America. And sitting in the chair you're in just 2 years ago, there was a sheriff from Cochise County, Arizona, Mark Daniels, that was here, who said that the exponential increase in the amount of fentanyl that is coming into America is directly related to the open borders policies of the previous administration. Do you agree with Sheriff Daniels' characterization?
In large part, yes.
So since you've been director, has there been a reduction we've talked about how the border is largely secure now, right?
The southern border, yes, sir.
The southern border is largely secure. Has there been a concomitant reduction or a reduction in the amount of fentanyl that is coming into America?
There has been a massive reduction to the tune of, we have seized more than 25% year-to-date this year than the prior year, and that's enough fentanyl to kill 120 million Americans.
Does China play a role in this fentanyl that's coming to America?
As I stated in my opening, sir, what they do and the companies in China, mainland China, do is produce the precursors and the cutting agents that they ship overseas through various countries and to the Mexican drug cartels who produce it. So they basically are the cooks in terms of the ingredients.
Tell us, what is the FBI doing to stop China from delivering death to America?
So for the first time in a decade, I actually reached out to my counterpart at the Ministry of Public Security. No one at the FBI had done so. To engage.
Ministry of Security, where's that?
In mainland China.
In mainland China, okay, thank you.
To engage in a conversation to say, hey, can we have a certain number of these precursor chemicals listed in China so that they become illegal and illegal to trade. We're also working with our counterparts in places like India and Guatemala because the transshipment routes of the precursors, the Mexican drug cartels have gotten creative, and instead of coming directly to America are going into these countries. And we've had massive success in India and Guatemala, and in those governments, great partnerships in shutting down the ability to ship the precursors into those countries, which are ultimately destined to America.
So those people that are working with security agencies have been working with you, is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
So I want to turn to a couple cases that are at the University of Michigan, where Chinese nationals on behalf of the Chinese government smuggled in illicit biological materials, stuff that can harm our agricultural industry. What actions are you taking as we see repeated stories of Chinese nationals doing this in the United States?
So just that, sir. In this calendar year alone, as I was mentioning, our counterintelligence operations and cases brought against the Chinese are up by, I think, something like 40%. And specifically, the cases in Michigan show two threat streams, not just against our agricultural industry, which is a threat to national security, but they were also bringing in chemical agents and mushrooms, I'm not the exact expert, that would have ultimately hurt our population. We arrested and charged all of those individuals, and we were aggressively going after them in every single state because they weren't doing it in Michigan alone.
Should research universities across the United States be doing a thorough job of vetting Chinese nationals that are coming to their universities?
They should.
Turning to spying in America, we heard the stories about Senator Dianne Feinstein's driver, who was a Chinese spy. We're familiar with Linda Sun, who worked in Governor Hochul's office, Christine Fang in California. What are you doing to find these people who are Chinese spies that are trying to burrow themselves into the politics of America? Because we know it's happening, right?
Yes, it is. And what our counterintelligence unit is doing is aggressively seeking the intelligence into where these individuals are working. Then we are utilizing our operational authorities to go in and investigate them either through our human source networks and collecting information through lawful process, online, search warrants, and data so that we can bring proper arrest charges and publicize to the world what they're doing here. And just because we've caught a few doesn't mean we've caught everybody. We've got a lot more to go.
I get one more quick question in. The FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin, Hannah Dugan, for interfering with a federal law enforcement operation. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And is a judge above the law here in the United States of America?
Well, no one is, and that case is ongoing, but as you stated, and these allegations that there was an interference in a federal lawfully executed federal law enforcement priority that was interfered with.
I yield.
At Wednesday's House Judiciary Committee hearing, Representative Tiffany, Republican Wisconsin, pressed FBI Director Kash Patel on a series of high-stakes national security concerns ranging from Jeffrey Epstein to fentanyl trafficking, Chinese espionage, and even judicial accountability. The exchange stretched across some of the most sensitive topics facing the Bureau today, and Patel gave an unusually detailed look at how the FBI is handling them. The questioning began with Epstein. Tiffany asked Patel directly whether former President Donald Trump was implicated in any way through the FBI's review of the case. Patel's answer was blunt. Based on the entirety of the evidence that we have, absolutely not. The president is not implicated. That simple statement effectively shut down speculation on the matter, at least from the Bureau's perspective, and allowed the conversation to shift toward other pressing issues. Tiffany's next focus was China's role in fueling America's drug crisis. He tied the influx of fentanyl to open border policies under previous administrations, citing testimony from an Arizona sheriff who linked border security lapses to rising drug flows. Patel didn't dispute the connection. In fact, he went further, stating that fentanyl seizures have risen dramatically during his tenure as director. There has been a massive reduction, Patel said, referring to the success in intercepting fentanyl shipments. We have seized more than 25% year to date this year than the prior year, and that's enough fentanyl to kill 120 million Americans. Patel explained how China fits into this deadly chain. While the drug cartels in Mexico handle most of the production, Chinese companies are supplying the building blocks. They basically are the cooks in terms of the ingredients, Patel said. The chemicals are shipped from China to other countries and eventually funneled into Mexico, where cartels convert them into fentanyl bound for the United States. Pressed on what the FBI is doing about it, Patel described a rare step: direct outreach to Beijing. For the first time in 10 years, he contacted China's Ministry of Public Security to push for precursor chemicals to be placed on China's list of controlled substances, which would make them illegal to trade. In parallel, the FBI has worked with partners in India and Guatemala to intercept shipments, as traffickers have started rerouting supplies through those countries. Patel described these efforts as massive successes, highlighting how international cooperation can disrupt cartel operations. But fentanyl was not the only concern raised. Tiffany turned to a case at the University of Michigan where Chinese nationals, allegedly acting on behalf of Beijing, smuggled in biological materials that could damage U.S. agriculture and even threaten public health. Patel said these individuals had been arrested and charged, and he used the example to underline a larger pattern. FBI counterintelligence cases targeting Chinese activities are up by roughly 40% this year. The Michigan case, he explained, revealed two parallel threats: an attack on agriculture and the introduction of harmful chemical agents and even mushrooms with dangerous properties. The conversation then shifted toward political infiltration. Tiffany pointed to well-known cases such as Senator Dianne Feinstein's longtime driver who was revealed as a Chinese spy, and Christine Fong, a suspected operative who embedded herself in California politics. Patel didn't downplay the problem. He described how the Bureau's counterintelligence unit is aggressively seeking to uncover where Chinese operatives are embedded. He outlined the FBI's strategy, using human sources, lawful surveillance, and digital investigations to identify and arrest those involved. Patel also stressed that catching a handful of operatives doesn't mean the problem is solved. Just because we've caught a few doesn't mean we've caught everybody, he warned. We've got a lot more to go. Before wrapping up, Tiffany raised one final, unexpected issue: the FBI's arrest of Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan for allegedly interfering with a federal law enforcement operation. Patel declined to go into specifics since the case is ongoing, but he made one point very clear: no one is above the law, not even a judge. That case is ongoing, he said, but as you stated, these allegations involved interference in a lawfully executed federal law enforcement priority. The hearing ended without fireworks, but the substance was striking. In just a few minutes of questioning, Tiffany pulled the FBI director through a whirlwind of controversial topics: Trump and Epstein, border security, fentanyl, China's global reach, university security, political infiltration, and judicial accountability. Patel's answers revealed both the scope of the challenges facing the Bureau and the steps it is taking, often quietly, to confront them.